What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ring the Bell show. I'm Chris T. Francisco. That's parts of John. And then we got Jason Kent, who is also here with us. Jason's on mute, so even if he tries to talk, we won't hear him. However, we are finally here, boys. Like, we are almost 70 episodes deep into the Ring the Bell podcast, Ring the Bell show. And we are now covering our second consecutive postseason as the Phillies are officially set for the wild card round, where they will go up against a very familiar foe. I guess you could say division rival, Miami Marlins. And that'll kick off Tuesday night. That'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If there is a game three, every game will be at 8 p.m. All three games will be inside Citizens Bank Park. The Phillies lost 2 of 3 over the weekend against the New York Mets. It's kind of a very much an irrelevant series. However, it was nice, and it's something I really wanted. And I was really happy that the Phillies pummeled the Mets on Sunday. The Phillies got to 90 wins. So 3 wins better than last season. Jason and I talked so many times throughout the year. We thought this was a 95 win roster. It didn't get to that point, and I largely blame that on pitching, which is quite obvious. But let's not kind of dwell on what it was, and let's just kind of discuss where we're at now. And beginning Tuesday, it is the Marlins. For so long, for about like good 2 weeks now, so many thought that it was going to be the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. That's what I thought as well. It's not. We got the Marlins, and built around pitching and heavily reliant on winning tight games, which the Marlins. The Marlins present a much different matchup for the Phillies, especially being a best of 3 than the Diamondbacks would have. Arizona is a more offensive-oriented team. I still wish it was the D-backs. I think they would have been a better draw for the Phillies. They had Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly probably going games 2 and 3. And then they have, I think the Diamondbacks are going with their rookie, Brandon Pad. I don't even know how to say his last name, but he's been struggling like crazy. So I really much would have preferred the Diamondbacks over the Marlins. John, you actually expressed a worry about opening up against the Marlins. What threat do the Marlins present to you that gets you a little bit more worried?
They have good left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Now I will say this: it is a new season.
Yep.
It's a new season now, but so there's nothing to be negative about whatever happened. They got 95 wins. Now it's in the past. It's a new season. Playoffs start. It's brand new. We saw last year. They were the last team in, and they went on a great run.
Mm-hmm.
It just concerns me with. I'm not really so much worried about Harper and Stock because they hit lefties pretty well. I'm more worried about Marsh and Schwarber, who struggle against left-handed pitching, and I know Roberts is not going to move Schwarber that leadoff spot. I mean, I think he should, but he probably.
Yeah.
I don't know why we keep him there. It doesn't have to be all playoffs. It's just for the series. Like when there's a lefty in that position, he's going to struggle. And Lazaro is going game 1. He has a good curveball. That's something that Kyle will chase. So,
yeah. How about you, Jason?
I was actually more fearful. I don't want to say fearful because I think we beat both of the teams, but I think the Diamondbacks had a better team. I was a little bit more worried about them. They scored, I think, 80 more runs this season. The Marlins they have a negative 56 run differential. So they're not a great team. They have one guy that really has power. And outside of that, Arias, he can hit, but he doesn't give you much else. So there's nobody on that team that I really fear going in. It's like, okay, that's the guy we have to worry about beating us, which I think the Diamondbacks have a couple of guys that can do that. But the Marlins did take, they won the season series against the 7-6, even though the one thing once that I saw was I think their runs scored in the series was 56 and runs given up was 66. So it's kind of misleading. So I think we're a much better team than the Marlins, and we should beat them in 2. To me, I thought the Diamondbacks would be a little bit tougher of a series because they do have a little more power, more offensive power.
So it's crazy because if you look at their first two starters, it's almost as if Taijuan Walker is starting games 1 and 2, and it's the Marlins went 4-0 against the Phillies in the season with games started by Luzardo and Garrett. But again, like when I said it's like a Taijuan Walker back-to-back games, they had a 4.43 ERA in 3 of the 4 starts. So the fact of the matter is, like Taijuan, he might give up 6, but somehow the Phillies end up winning before he's out of the game. And it seems that way with Luzardo and Garrett, where they're giving up runs and they're just escaping with wins against the Phillies. So yeah, the fact that they won that season series, it bothers me a little bit. But also another thing that we haven't brought up yet is yes, they have left-handed starters. Another thing though, John, is they're also a very left-handed heavy in the bullpen. Their top 4 relievers are all lefties.
Yep.
Closer Tanner Scott, AJ Puck, Steven Oker, and I think Andrew Nardi is the other one. Those 4 have held left-handed hitters to a 198 batting average with 131 strikeouts and only 32 walks this season. And the Phillies leadoff hitter, which presumably will be Kyle Schwarber, has hit 188 off of lefties this year. So that's, not big difference to his normal batting average, but still 188. And then I thought about, well, what about putting Trey Turner back at the leadoff spot? Trey hit 229 and only got on base at a 295 clip against left-handed pitching. So again, every time we want to go and think of, all right, well, do we put Trey Turner in that spot? He didn't do himself any favors against left-handed pitching either.
But is that the whole season? Like I'd want to see what those numbers are mid-August, once he got on that heater till now. Because the whole season, if you have I think it's going to bring it down some, because he's only batting 260 for the season, I think. So I'd want to see what it looks like since he really came on in beginning of August.
Yeah, I mean,
this series reminds me of 2010 against the Giants, like where they just threw all those lefties against. They threw all those lefties against. I'm sorry, but that's what it reminds me of. I mean, they threw all those lefties against, and that's how they beat the Phillies. I'm worried about that situation where it's gonna somehow.
That was a much better. Like that team was so much better than this team. They won 3-6. Like I understand the whole. I think we're overthinking the lefties. Outside of Schwarber, I think Harper is going to do his thing. I'm comfortable with Stott, and we have enough power bats on the other side. Casty's hitting. If JT can get hot a little, I just think there's enough balance in this lineup to where I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
Do you see them not playing Marsh this series at all? And they put Sosa in at their base. And so then boom at first.
I mean, that's something we're going to have to see.
Definitely look at it.
I think that's something that we're going to see. I would do that because Marsh he is god awful against lefties.
Yeah,
man. He is horrible,
really bad. I'm going to go see if I can find those numbers. But Bryce Harper against lefties this year is hitting 290. Nick Castellanos against lefties is hitting 325. So Casty, that's it. Just put Casty at the leadoff. Let him lead off. I'm going to go find Brandon Marsh now and see what his numbers against lefties. But
I'm pretty sure he's like under 200, and he's like
they're
versus righties.
It's pretty god awful. So against lefties, Brandon Marsh is actually hitting 220. Against right-handed hitters, he's hitting 295.
Stotty's 282. Maybe I know we talked last year. Maybe moving him up to leadoff if it's something. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think a lot of our, outside of Schwarber, I'm not worried about the left-handed bats. Maybe Marsh because I just don't trust him fully yet. But outside of Schwarber, I think the other guys can hit and are going to do fine.
Yeah, I think Turner should be. I don't really love lefties against a lefty leading off. I'm not a fan of lefties leading off in general, unless you're like somebody like Luis Arias, who's just an unbelievable hitter. It's one of those, or like your Ichiro, like one of those situations, like where you're just an unbelievable hitter. It doesn't matter what the pitching is, but like somebody like Schwarber, or like Stott, I'm not really comfortable with him being a lefty like leadoff hitter against left-handed pitcher.
No, and another thing, and I'm gonna post it here. Since 2019, the Phillies hold a losing record against the Marlins. They're 40-42 since
They own us.
2019. And look, I'm not trying to look. I think the Phillies win in two. Spoiler alert, that's going to be my prediction. But the Marlins were by far, and this is crazy because Jason and I talked about this numerous times. Is that the Phillies had one of the best records when coming from behind. However, the Marlins were by far Major League Baseball's best team in one-run games at 33-13. So, the ability to win one-run games is, rarely viewed as something that's sustainable, which we talked about multiple times on the other side with the Phillies, that you can't just, it's not a good thing when everybody goes, oh, well, the Phillies are down 5-0. Not a big deal. They'll come back. Like, that's just not sustainable. And we found out later on in the season, they hit a little bit of a rut where, again, it's not sustainable. So, and the reason why it's not a sustainable formula, the Marlins might be 33-13 in one-run games, but, they had the third worst record in the majors and one-run games a year ago, but they had plenty of experience eking out wins and, will be confident in the game like that's so close that late. And that worries me with guys like Sir Anthony Dominguez, guys like Craig Kimbrell who are struggling. John, do you have, if you had to pinpoint your biggest concern from the Phillies end right now going into this wild card series, what would that be?
It'd be the bullpen. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw the last September and August. I mean, big hit after big hit, Harper, Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber, all these guys, and then all of a sudden the bullpen comes in and they blow it. They give up a 2-run home run. They start walking guys. It terrifies me because coming into the season, I thought the bullpen was going to be unbelievable.
We all thought
I
that.
thought it was going to be great, and then they were really good. Cricket was great for most of the season. I mean, he was like, what was he, like a 20-20 for saves for a while? He was doing great, and then he just completely fell off. Sir Anthony never recovered from the end of last season. He was bad at the end of last season too. He never recovered.
Mm-hmm.
Soto, I thought was going to be a lot better. I don't know what happened to him. He's a completely different player here than he was in Detroit.
Yeah.
And then the only bright spot is Alvarado is lighting it up. But do you really want to trust Alvarado out of all people? I mean, he's the guy who walks the bases loaded and gives you a heart attack. You're like, oh my God, I'm just going to go to bed because they're going to lose now because Alvarado's in the game. But is that somebody you really want to rely on? And then now the talks is Orion. Like, Orion's good. Is he going to be a guy in the playoffs? Like, you really want to rely on a rookie who has 3 appearances?
When he throws 100 miles an hour and has a slider like that, yeah. And you add on who's in our bullpen, it kind of, I would be okay with that. When I look at it, man, the Marlins are coming in really hot.
Yeah.
The second half of the season, when I was just looking up, they're 31-37 in the second half. But in September, they're 17-9. So they're coming in playing really good baseball. Even the Phillies, I think, when they're looking, they're 15-13 coming in September. So the one thing that does worry me is, you've seen it a lot in the past. Teams coming in hot. Phillies did it last year. They came in hot and won some games. Now it shouldn't happen, but I agree with John. I think this bullpen has me very worried. It's not something I'm too concerned about in this series because I think we put up runs against these guys. Nobody on their pitching staff really, I think, can dominate us. I think we're going to score runs, and I think it'll be fine. But I think going forward, it is a major concern. And if we do lose this series, I think it will be because of the bullpen.
I agree. I agree for sure. I mean, the big question mark, though, it is for the Marlins is Luis Reyes, who had just one plate appearance in the Marlins' final 7 games of the season, most of which were must-win games, of course. He has an ankle injury. So, my assumption is he's going to play. So, again, Dean, you do have an invitation, by the way, to come on. I sent you an invite, clown. So Jay, I'll ask you. You kind of piggybacked off of what John said. What is your biggest concern for the Phillies going up against the Marlins here?
I do think it's the bullpen. Outside of that, I don't really have much of a concern. And I don't even think it's a concern. It's really more the Marlins coming in pretty hot, playing good baseball in September. I think that's the biggest thing, because when you look at the two teams, I don't know if there's anyone on this Marlins team that you're like, okay, he's going to start on the Phillies or even play on the Phillies. Like they're just not a good overall team. Even, they're in the playoffs. I get it. They had a pretty solid season, but they're not somebody that we should worry about. Now you go in, you got to take everything seriously, but I don't really think there is much of a worry, honestly. The bullpen does scare you, but I think we're good enough to handle that. I do trust Alvarado. I'm okay with giving him, some seasons a guy just has it. And Alvarado seems like this season he has it. But once you get late, if there's a worry, it's close games late. Who's closing? Who's doing what? I think that's the biggest concern. If they are a tight series and they put up runs, who are we going to have in 8 and 9? I think they got to figure that out.
No, I agree. And, to kind of go back again in terms of, run prevention, Thompson did say Sunday that against Miami that, he indicated that Pache could start in left field versus Luzardo and Garrett. Brandon Marsh has played sporadically against lefties in that second half, and his numbers against, lefty pitching has obviously tailed off. But, Thompson did say prior to the regular season finale that Marsh just hasn't been seeing the ball well lately against lefties. Whether it's Pache or Wilson starting in left field, I can't even believe I'm saying that. They would
There's
probably
no shot Wilson plays left. There's just
no. I don't think so either. But they would probably be pulled from Marsh as soon as the left-handed pitcher is out of the game. So are you guys okay?
I don't see them. I see them bringing in one of their lefties out the bullpen. I really do. If I'm any team in the playoffs, I'm throwing lefties at any chance I get against the Phillies. I mean, that's what I do, and they have to prove that they can hit them. If they can't prove it, then still 5 lefties in the lineup? 4 lefties. 4 lefties.
Well, you have
Schwarber, Stott. If Marsh plays,
Harper,
Marsh.
If Cave plays it, and then if Cave plays, it's 5.
Cave ain't going to see the field. Cave ain't seeing the field this series.
Why? You don't like Triple A Barry Bonds?
Yeah, that's what I want.
Nah.
Yeah.
So, the Phillies could carry all 3. They could carry Wilson, Cave, and Pache along with Garrett Stubbs and, Edmundo Sosa if they choose to roster, 14 position players rather than the 13 that teams are limited in the regular season. Had the Phillies played the D-backs, the decisions probably would have been significantly more straightforward. Arizona only, had only 3 left-handers on its season-ending roster, one of whom appeared in only 10 games. So when you face the Marlins now, things get a little bit trickier with how they're going to handle who's on the roster. So if the Phillies carry 13 pitchers, these are probably the locks. You got Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, Walker, Kimbrel, Alvarado, Dominguez, Soto, Strahm, Hoffman, Kerkering, Sanchez, and Lorenzen. If they carry one fewer pitcher, it might be Lorenzen that doesn't make this postseason roster, which is crazy.
Cubby just went on the IL today, didn't he, or yesterday?
Yes.
So you can just eliminate him out of that question.
Well, he wasn't in that list that I just steamed. So, Walker isn't a great fit for the short series, but he would serve a purpose, God forbid they get to an extra inning game. But, in the playoffs, though, extra innings are played without the automatic runner at second base. So there's a
much different play how you play that.
It's significant in terms of who you pitch. So if you guys have to make the decision, are you guys do you start Pache in left field to start against a lefty? Or do you just roll the dice and just Marsh is your guy all the way through?
No, even though I hate him playing the field, I think you play Schwarber in left and you play Sosa.
Hey.
Yeah. So Dean is here.
Back, everybody.
So
is
Dean,
this a shirtless party?
Yes, it is. It is.
Baby, look at
a shirtless party.
This is just
brother.
No, don't make me take my shirt off,
brother.
So, Dean,
Yeah.
I'll tally it back to you. We were just talking about what worries us the most about the Marlins, and obviously it's their left-handed. The amount of lefties they have in their rotation and their bullpen. What worries you the most about the Marlins?
The fact that they've only made the playoffs 3 times in their history and they won the World Series in 2 of them.
I never even think about that.
Solid point. 66.
I was
So-
actually thinking about that. I was like, we're seriously talking about the Phillies playing the Marlins in the playoffs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So
That's wild. I
but
never even thought about that.
and then having lefties doesn't help either, but
No,
it's
it doesn't.
actually they've made the playoffs 3 times, and one of them was the COVID year. So in the 2 full seasons and a 162 game season, the Marlins have made the playoffs. They've both won the World Series both times. So it doesn't bode well for this year, folks. Might as well pack it in.
just back up the truck.
Shut it down now. Give him the trophy.
Because you were talking earlier about if you do start Pache in left and you take him out quick if they go to a righty, but with how well he hits lefties and like you said with so many lefties, would you just be okay keeping him in to face a few? Because I looked at his splits are ridiculous. Like yes, he shouldn't play versus righties, but if he's hitting that much better than Marsh against lefties, and you're expecting to see a lot of lefties, he's not a defensive liability out there. He definitely is better defensively than Schwarber. He's a really good. That's why he was brought up in the beginning.
Absolutely,
they always said he was a great defender. So would you, even if they brought in a righty in the bullpen, would you be okay leaving him in the game to even face one, having him bat? Unless it's late in the game, like I get last inning, you do it. But if it's earlier in the game, 5th, 6th inning, I would even keep them in the game just to face one, because I know later they're probably going to go back to lefties.
So I think, I'm okay with Pache from start to finish, especially like John said, they have endless amounts of lefties to keep. This is a 3-game series, so these guys are going to throw as often as they're needed. So that's where it worries me regarding Marsh, because this is the postseason. This is not game 60 out of 162. So, you got to put your best guys out there. And if Marsh is that significant of a liability against lefties, then I'm sorry. Then he just doesn't see the field unless there's a right-handed pitcher in there. I just think it's that simple. I don't know. I just don't see how it can be any different than that.
I agree.
I agree as well. I think Pache, if you're starting him, he needs to stay in the whole game. I'd much rather go with a more defensive center field right now and be okay with Schwarber doing DH and dealing with that and not having to worry about it later. Because once you can't bring him back in, so I'm okay keeping Pache. If they're going to start lefties, okay keeping Pache in the full games.
And so, John, and all of you guys, so if now that we're facing lefties, game 1 and 2. Cassie's batting 3, right? And Harper's batting 4. Are they going to put that lineup back together?
I don't know, actually.
That's what I've been thinking about the last week, is with how hot Cassie's been. Are they going to start that playoffs and just get him right back in that 3 hole?
I don't know if I would. Maybe he's been hot because he's not hitting 3.
But I agree with you. But you're the guy. When it comes to Robert, he's not going to do things the way.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I honestly don't know what he's going. I don't know what he's going to do in that. I have no idea. You have no idea what lineup he's going to put out day in and day out. It's a surprise every time. Personally, I think I would put Boom 3, and I would leave Cassie at 7. But we'll see what happens. That's what I would go with. I think it's the best lineup you have, and obviously Harper's going to be 4th and followed by. And you know what? I actually put him 5th. That's where I put him, because I don't want Stott and Harper going back to back. So put Stott 6.
Okay. So all right.
I want to leave the lineup the same. I still want to keep it. Like I would put, if I'm doing anything, Cassie's probably going 4. I want Harper staying at 3. I do like, especially when you're facing lefties. I do like, because you can never the back and forth, because you can never bring somebody in the face 2 of a kind, right? But I think Cassie deserves to move up. he's earned that right. He's a professional hitter. They moved Trey Turner up once he got hot. I think Casty figured it out. He was hot early on. He did have his slump. He's been hitting the ball well. I want him up at the top of that lineup to drive in some runs in front of the guys that are going to get on base. Yeah.
Dean, are you all for keeping Casty where he is, keeping the lineup to what's been working?
I mean, you got to make some adjustments, but we know Thompson doesn't make the smartest adjustments all the time. So, but I probably would. I probably move Bohm up, put Harper at fourth. I'd probably put Casty at fifth because I don't trust JT at all.
I don't either.
So I push him down, Stott at sixth, and then JT would be seventh for me. That's where I would have him.
See, you brought up an interesting player, and that's where it's going to worry me. Is again, Topper's a player guy, and he's like Charlie was in certain fashions where he's very loyal to a fault. And I'm really concerned that Topper's going to go into this postseason and keep JT like in that top 5 spot. And I don't want to see JT Realmuto anywhere close to the top 5 in that lineup. And John, do you feel, and John and Jason as well, do you feel that JT, from the loyalty of his manager, we're going to see him higher in that lineup?
No, because I think he's done it all year. Turner wasn't hot. He put Turner 8 and 7. He put Turner down there.
Never moved JT though. I feel like
JT's
been up. He's like 5 consistently the whole time. It's not something like he's the guy they haven't moved down. So I find it hard. Yeah, he hasn't moved him down. He's struggled a lot worse than some of these other guys did.
You're probably right. He's probably going to end up still hitting 5 or something in that 5 or 6 in that range.
That's where he's been the majority of the season. So
that's probably where he's going to stay there.
He's only had
40.
Again,
I think he's going to look at it like he was hot all postseason last year. At the end of September, he kind of carried the team at the end of the year when Harper was going out for a little bit. So I mean, I think he's going to be loyal to him, and he's going to keep. You're right. He's going to keep him there at 5, and I hope for the best that he gets hot. I mean, we got to. It's a new season, so we can't dwell on what he did in the regular season. It's brand new now. It's the postseason now. So
ideally, you'd want JT hitting 6th because in 232 plate appearances, which was where he started 56 games at, he hit 292 this season with a 345 OBP in the 6th hole. In the 5th hole, it drops all the way down to 230. 7th, he's only got 12 games played where he hit 250 and he hit 150 batting 4th, and he's not going to hit 3rd or 4th. But it seems to be, guys, where his sweet spot is that 6 hole. So if you put Casty in that 5, then JT apparently, according to his splits, that's where he's gonna thrive in that 6 hole. However, the fact that he's hitting 198 at home kind of bothers me. So
just bench him. Just play Stubbsy at home.
Hey man, he has 4 kids at home.
Well, hey, look, so let's kind of break this down now, and let's get to the nitty gritty of this. Jason, I'm going to start with you. The Marlins win the wild card series if what?
I think if they can get to the starters early, that's pretty much it. Like, I think you got to get to them early and get them out of the game, because if you get to that bullpen, they're going to give up runs. So you got to get to that bullpen as quick as possible. So it's early runs, and it's got to be a lot, because if you don't get them in that first or second inning, Wheeler's going to lock you down. And they kind of, regardless, I still believe in Nola a little bit. So I think, they're going to have to get to them in that first inning 1 or 2. If they don't get to them in inning 1 or 2, I think we win this. It's a pretty convincing win both games.
John, how about you? The Marlins win if what?
If their starters go deep into the ball game.
Okay. Dean?
Kind of agree with Jay. If they can get our starters out of the game, I think we're effed.
Yeah, I think that's agreement all around there. I think if the Marlins can get, to the Phillies in that second or third time around that lineup, and the Phillies aren't hitting, we're in trouble. Like just flat out trouble at that point. And the fact that the Marlins have, again, those big 4 lefty arms in the bullpen just waiting to go, that's just terrifying. That's exactly why I wanted the Diamondbacks, because I feel like the Diamondbacks, in comparison from a matchup perspective, we're almost a walk in the park for the Phillies in that offense. So I agree that's I think we universally understand what needs to happen. And then the bigger question here is the Phillies win if. John, I'll start with you.
They hit the baseball. I'm not really worried about. I'm actually surprised that I'm not worried about Wheeler and Nola at all. Like I think they're going to be ready to go. I don't think this lineup's really that great. I think they just need to hit the baseball. If they can hit the baseball, they're going to win. They need to score runs and they need to capitalize on all the opportunities. That's the way they win the series.
Jason?
Dude just rolled his eyes when I said I believe in Nola, and then he just says he believes in Nola. I'm calling shenanigans on that. Okay, he just rolled his eyes on
The
him.
difference is it's like you always say like, oh, I'm out on Nola, but then it's like
I got to. I'm gonna buy because I think he's and I said in the beginning of the year, he's the key for us to win a World Series. He has to play well. If he doesn't play well, we can't win.
You're saving all his bullets for the playoffs. That's
I'm
why
hoping so.
I've heard that for so long.
They got to score early. Don't
Yeah.
let it be a quick game. I think
that's the big thing,
that's
man.
That's
it.
They always, I feel like they've always, in a lot this season, I think that's why we have, I think 44 come from behind wins because they're giving up runs first and second inning. I think the Phillies, this might be a series where I'm okay Schwarber leading off if he has that bomb because you gotta, it does change the game. So I think you got to get up. They got to get to the starters in that first or second inning is what I think it's the same way. They got to score early.
Yeah. Dean, the Phillies win if
the pitching holds up. It's all about pitching for me.
Yeah.
Like if the pitching isn't there, doesn't matter who it is, Wheeler, Nola, Walker, Ranger, whoever the starter is, if we're taxing that bullpen early and often, this series is going to be short and not for us.
So I agree with that. So you guys kind of went between hitting early, which is a big deal to me. If the Phillies can get an early lead, that would mean so much. I mean, to me personally, because I hate the idea of, this is a great come from behind team. I don't want to be coming from behind at all in any series in the postseason. And the reason for that to me is I want to avoid. I really want to avoid the bullpen as much as possible. I want the Phillies. I want Gregory Soto or Hoffman or Kimbrel or Dominguez or Alvarado to come in with the Phillies up, 5-1, 6-1. So that's really disgusting, Jason, to say that in our private chat, as I'm trying to have a thought here. And so that's my biggest thing is avoid the Phillies bullpen, getting to the Phillies bullpen as long as humanly possible. And the offense has to start quick. And I'm with you guys. If the Phillies can get through that first round of the order and go up 2 or 3-0, I think at that point, all bets are off. I think the Phillies will just keep pounding in runs at that point. That's what their offense is built to do. I really do think that the biggest part to me is get some runs early, right off the bat, get a hold of those pitchers, and then I want the Philly starters to just go as long as possible. They gotta log at least 6 innings to start. That's because look, regardless of what people may think, I think it's going to be a long series against the Braves. And I just want to try to avoid this Phillies bullpen as much as possible. Okay, so let's finish things up here with our wild card predictions and what we think will ultimately happen. Dean, I'm going to start with you.
I think the Phillies are going to win the series.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got a feeling the Marlins lineup doesn't scare me really at all.
Right.
It's all their pitching and how it matches up with us, but it's at home, and I think the place is going to be rocking. I'll be there Tuesday night. If we're going to win one game, that better be the game they win. So
yeah.
I'm going to be very angry eating my burrito after the game. But I'm going to probably go. I think they take the first 2 games and just end it there.
Perfect. John.
Yeah, I really do.
I agree with Dean. I think they win the first 2 games, and I think they win. I think they scored 10 runs in the first game.
Whoa.
And
All
runs.
right.
Let's save a little bit for game 2.
Right. Jason.
Yeah, we don't want to get hit. We don't want to get no hit again.
Oh God, that was not fun to watch. I'll tell you that. That was a terrible game.
But I was negative. Apparently, I'm too negative. But I couldn't criticize the team for getting no hit in the damn World Series.
Yeah, I think Nolan Wheeler put in, I think they both go 7. I don't think we're going to have to worry about the bullpen. I think one of them could go a little bit longer, but I think both of them put in quality, very good starts and don't really need to use much of this bullpen. At least the big hitters, the heavy guys that need to do the lifting. I think it's pretty, they put up some runs against this team and our starters shut them down. So yeah, Phillies in 2.
I think Nolan Wheeler's game is the key to the series, though. If he comes out like he did a couple weeks ago against the Braves and gets lit up,
yep,
that might I might change my mind and think the Marlins are going to win the series. And that doesn't mean. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. That doesn't mean I don't think Nolan doesn't have it in him. He's pitched pretty good in the past month for the most part, enough for the team to win games. But it's just like last playoffs. If Wheeler is not dealing, it's going to be tough to overcome that, I think. I mean, he's your ace. He's your guy. So if he doesn't have it, I mean, you got to rely on Aaron Nola and Walker and Suarez and Jared Lorenzen.
Michael Lorenzen.
Michael Lorenzen.
I don't know if there's a Jared Lorenzen.
The corpse of Jared Lorenzen is going to come back to life and throw a pitch.
That's hilarious. I love it. So look,
he's dead now. But.
If we could get the Nola that we saw his first 2 starts of the postseason last year, and his first start, game 2 of the NL Wildcard against St. Louis, he went 6 2/3, 4 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, absolutely perfect. And his next start, game 3 against the Atlanta Braves, 6 innings, 5 hits, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. Again, you win the game every time. You win the game every time. If he could just get you to that 6 1/3, 6 2/3 of I'll even go 2 earned runs. If you can only surrender 2 earned runs in an Aaron Nola start, you should win the game. So my prediction is I think the Phillies take this in 2. I think game 2 will be a little bit closer than game 1. I'm kind of with John. I think the floodgates open in game 1 on Tuesday night. That stadium, Dean, please contribute as much as you can to that stadium just being so loud.
You've never been to a game with me.
You also have to remember.
Listen, man, I grew up going to the vet, man. I'm vicious.
Good.
The Marlins
Go ahead,
have
John.
2 starters who've never pitched in a postseason and have never pitched in an environment like this. I think I think the fans are gonna be a huge key to this season.
I agree.
For 2 young starters, I mean, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, look at Strider, who was unbelievable last season, and he gets into that environment, and what happens? He just melted and fell apart. So I think that's gonna be a huge factor.
Yeah, and the great thing is, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for postseason Bryce Harper, and there's nothing on earth that's more fun to watch than watching that dude in the postseason. So, fingers crossed, we get the same thing as last year, or maybe even slightly better. It would just be he looks healthy. I'm really excited for this and playoff baseball. And I've talked to Jason about this so many times. It's like there's just nothing like playoff baseball with the Phillies.
Do you think Turner having that championship, like he's got a championship now, having him with this team that has that run, is that add to them? Because now, like, Turner knows what it's like to win and get you all the way there. I think Philly's a lot of outside, last year, I think it was kind of, it was magical. Nobody expected it. But do you think adding Turner gives them that little extra, okay, this is what we need to do this year? Or do you think that really doesn't play into it at all?
So I think it's going to have to be lead by example, because he's not a rah-rah guy. He's not gonna voice anything like that, like a Schwarber would or a Harper would, or even a Hoskins. I mean, it's been said that Hoskins is very vocal, but I think Turner's gonna have to prove it with his play. If he goes out and has, does what he did from August through basically the end of September, then you would think that everybody else is just going to follow suit to the guy that's won a championship. And I'm looking forward to seeing that, because if we can have the Trey Turner after August in that lineup for the postseason, dear God, I mean, that just hit. John, you've heard this a million times. Well, I know I have. Hitting is so contagious, and especially in the postseason, it could be a bloop single from Trey Turner that could spark 4 or 5 runs in an inning. So that's how important it is to get off the hot starts, because if you can put the Marlins away by the 3rd or 4th inning, then then you're pretty comfortable. Yeah. The goal is to get to Atlanta not having to work so hard against the Marlins. I want this team as fresh and ready as possible to go up to Atlanta, because that is just going to be a war. And I am so looking forward to an Atlanta series, but still the task at hand is the Marlins, and I don't like looking ahead. I'm not going to look ahead. So let's just take game 1, and then we'll go from there. All right. So just to keep everybody updated, Tuesday, as soon as that last out is recorded, we will be on here for post game, and then Wednesday night, as soon as that last pitch is thrown, Dean will not be.
I'm not gonna be home for a while after that game, probably.
So Wednesday night, as soon as that game is over, we'll be here. Same thing. If God forbid there is a game 3, same situation. So every single playoff game that the Phillies will partake in, you can bet your ass we will be here for post game every single time. They won't be long shows because, again, it's one game. But we can come on here for 15 to 25 minutes and break down the game, and then we'll go on to the next one because we'll all be probably no voice and tired by that point. All right, guys. So thank you so much again at Ring the Bell 856 on all platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Let's keep getting those subscribers up. It would mean a lot. Head over to manscaped.com right now. Use our code BASEBALL20 for 20% off and free shipping on your order. Head to SeatGeek. You're looking for playoff tickets? We're here to help you. $20 off your very first ticket purchase, SeatGeek.com with our code on the bump. Again, SeatGeek.com. Use our code on the bump for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Boys, looking forward to it. The playoffs are finally here. We've been waiting all season for this, and this is exciting.
Glad I was wrong.
Wait. Yeah, we are so glad that Dean was wrong.
He did have him not making.
Yeah,
you get him not making the playoffs.
We had him not making the playoffs at the beginning of the season.
They were 6 games under 500.
Yeah, and he also said it was a World Series hangover.
Wow.
My prediction's still in play, and so is yours, Chris.
They were 6 games under 500 when I said that, and they have a winning record since.
So. He did. He ripped him. He's they're not even making it now. Whatever.
Dean was the spark we all needed.
Can you say they're going to lose the series then?
No, he said they're going to win.
He said they're going to win the series.
Well, now it's cursed. I want them to say they're going to lose the series.
There's no curses. That doesn't exist.
What are you talking about? I have an incredible record over this whole season.
He has been very good, actually.
He even agrees with me half the time now.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have
to
talk
I'm
about.
like Ringo Starr. Peace and love, baby. Peace and love.
All right, everybody. This has been Ring the Bell. I'm Chris Francesco. That's John, Dean, and Jason. And the playoffs are here. Red October. Just wherever you are, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Get out, watch this game. Let's make those ratings as incredible as possible. Show them that, there's nothing like Philadelphia baseball, especially in the playoffs. So, all right, we'll talk to you guys Tuesday night immediately following a Philadelphia Phillies Game 1 win. We'll catch you guys. And as always, go